do, and thank you. Um, and then I moved on to become an itinerant English teacher, as again, many in our profession do, before I came to do postgraduate study in the UK in ELT. And that's where I first met linguistics and was sort of amazed and awed and ended up doing a PhD. So that's my trajectory that got me to the UK. Also at that time, I did also what I think a number of EAP teachers did. I used the pre-sessional as a way of helping me survive as I was studying. So the PhD was funded by the work I did on the pre-sessional, and it's in that capacity that I went from teacher to course director to pre-sessional director. And then I finished my PhD, so I thought, well, the reason I did a PhD was to become an academic, so I found a job as a lecturer in a linguistics department at Leeds. Very pleased about that. And then in that post was asked to take on acting head of department when my head had some difficulty. And then from there, realized that this was something that was sort of interesting to me, and I became deputy head of the School of Modern Languages, which is what it was called at that time in Leeds. And then before I became the language center director at Leeds. And then it's on that experience that I then became a director at Hong Kong. Why am I telling you this? Because, full disclaimer, I have no formal leadership training. I have no MBA. I know a lot of people do go off and get MBAs, but I really, honestly, I don't have any of that. So I don't want to claim beyond who I am and what I've done. What really inspired my interest in leadership that really has brought me to where I am today, which is concerned about leadership in EAP and concerned about our field in terms of leadership. And what started that concern was my involvement in recruitment of center directors. So when I say involvement, of course, I am a director, so I've been involved as a candidate, but I've also been involved quite a lot as a member at this point, as an external member of interview panels and select recruitment panels. And also, once you're a director, you start, when a position comes open, you start to learn and hear more about those recruitment processes because, you know, as people do, we talk, oh, who do you think is going to go for that and that kind of thing. So that's where it comes from. More specifically, my personal experience was that I first became a director because of a phone call in the night. Yeah, and that's what first brought me to a language center director role. Why this happened is because at the time, this is back in when I was deputy head of school, that our language center director left, she resigned, she retired, and Leeds tried to appoint a language center director and they were unable to. So the call in the middle of the night was in June. You can imagine the dean in June of the academic year realizing their language center was not going to have a director. Yeah. So thousands of pre-sessional students about to descend, phone call in the middle of the night, will you please step in just for 1 year? Please, please, just for 1 year. Yeah. So why did that happen? The reason they failed to recruit was because the candidate pool was just incredibly small. And what I have since discovered is that so many of these positions, when they come open, the candidate pool is surprisingly small. And then even smaller are those candidates who actually have relevant background or suitable background to be a director. So what kind of background, what are we talking about? Well, the first core question is, well, do we want someone with an academic orientation? Do we want someone with a business orientation, which is terribly tempting for universities sometimes? From where I can see, I think there are 4 routes to become a center director. And I've just labeled these this way. This is how I'm seeing it. There's the academic route, which is kind of the route I took. And I think this is sort of appealing to universities because they're all about academics and they're all used to this idea that, you know, professor so-and-so then becomes the head. So it feels comfortable for them, this academic route. But my question is that academic route, the kind of person who then ends up in that position, do they really understand the challenges? That's the route I took. Yeah. I was an EAP teacher. Yeah. I didn't have 20 years of experience as an EAP teacher, right? So I kind of barely fit that profile. We don't have a lot of people coming through who are academics who have an EAP practitioner who have the actual experience. There's a service route background. I mean, skills units and these people often are have a lot of managerial administrative experience, probably very, very good at running a center. The challenge there is that sometimes they have difficulty demanding the respect of the academics, right? And it's because the whole academic idea that's appealing to universities, if Professor so-and-so is happy to become the director. There's the private provider route, also very, very relevant experience, lots of experience with recruitment or numbers orientation. How about that university structure? How about that university culture? Question marks, right? And then there's the EAP route. Surely this is the route that should be feeding these positions. But reality, very, very few, very few. Why? Why? So what I want to do in this talk is I want to spend a little bit of time talking about our field and saying from my point of view, why, before then suggesting what we should do about it. So why are there very few? It's very, very concerning. In my view, EAP does no favors to itself by not having enough homegrown from its own in these positions. My view here is that the nature of EAP is part of the problem. What do I mean? I'm going to say a few words about the nature of EAP as a profession, and then I'm going to say a little bit about practitioner values and culture, about EAP units themselves, and then at EAP as a discipline. The profession. So, reality. Short-term contracts in the UK. So this is a primarily UK audience, though I was pleased to see we have people from outside the UK. And we all know it's a precarious position. Yeah, that's well discussed at the moment. Well, in terms of leadership, if there are only a subset of ourselves on secure contracts who are then in positions that you could gain significant leadership management experience, that's obviously going to be a major factor in what's going on here. Yeah, it feels like uncontroversial. I want to argue, though, that it's our own EAP professional culture and values that's also holding us back. So one reason I love working in EAP and in language centers is I love the professional culture of people who are practitioners because they genuinely love their students, they love their teaching, and that's fantastic. However, it also sometimes then leads to a bit of a feeling of, oh, no, don't ask me to do that. I just teach, you know, just let me go to my classroom. Not me, not me. It also can lead to this sense of false humility, often known as the butler stance. Oh, no, I could never. It's not my role. And unfortunately, can actually be even anti. Yeah, oh, it's an admin thing. I don't want to be distracted by admin. The nature of EAP units, they're seen as service providers. I don't think that's helpful when we're embodying a service orientation. It's of course wonderful for students, but to me, if we overdo it, and I will say we overdo it as a profession, I think it's at the expense of leading. My view is that we should act on par with other academic units as fellow academics. Is that too strong? I don't think it's too strong. We teach university level. We teach at university. I think also what's not helping us is the nature of EAP as a discipline. As a discipline, we have EAP researchers and we have EAP practitioners. We don't have a lot of people who are genuinely both or a heavy balance of both. And the professional world that we live in, higher education, is one in which there is academic status that's very much associated with that researcher. So there's a theme here coming out. So I think EAP itself is part of what's causing the challenge. But that's no good, just to point at some things that are making this difficult. So instead, hopefully I will spend a bit more time talking about the nature of EAP, and what it could be. In doing so, I'm going to spend more time talking about the EAP practitioner. And the main reason for this is because I was assuming that that would be the majority audience here. Yeah? So in my view, leadership is our responsibility. To me, it's an inherent requirement of all of us who work in EAP. And I think from practitioner to center director and everything in between. I'm sort of leaving out the EAP researcher because I don't think we'll have many in the audience today. So the focus initially and predominantly here is on the EAP practitioner. And my starting point is, I think, in a really sort of basic, uninteresting way, teaching requires an ability to manage. I don't think anyone's going to argue with me on that, about managing your classroom, and to lead. I think inherently. I think the nature of, well, we don't need EAP there. The nature of teaching is that it's a natural place for nurturing leadership. So that's my starting point. So here is where we have an exercise that I used to regularly do when I used to run sort of leadership training sessions with my own staff. Yeah, I ran a couple of these here. The exercise would go like this. Okay, first, list the qualities of a good leader. Heck, the order doesn't matter. Then list the qualities of a good teacher. Yeah, do it yourself. Just some adjectives. Adjectives are good. Let's stick with adjectives. Sometimes in two groups and then compare. Yeah. So are we going to do this? I'm not going to stick you in breakout rooms. Yeah, trust me. But do it. Try it. I'll give you 30 seconds. Don't share. Don't share yet. 30 seconds. Write down qualities of both. See what you come up with. Okay, here's what Ms. Google says. Which one of these sets? We've got two slides, this one and the next one. Is this a list of the qualities of a good teacher or a good leader? In the chat. What do you think? I tried to make the websites too small so you couldn't just be lazy and look at the websites. Ah, both. Oh, lots of boths. Fantastic. In reality, yeah, good. Elena is the winner. Yeah. In reality, these were all from, you know, Google qualities of a good leader. I just copied and pasted from all these different websites on what makes a good leader. So here's teacher. This is what Miss Google says about, oops, did it change? Is this the one you were looking at before, Louise?
Yes.
Yeah, so here's the second one. Thank you. Here's the second one. All right, so which one is this, teacher or leader? Yeah, so this is from, again, both. But correct, Angelos, this is what Google will say if you type in qualities of a good teacher. Great. So qualities of a successful leader. So now here's where in the talk I say, okay, good. So this is what the research says. And in reality, after doing these workshops for a while, and then when I got invited to do a plenary, I think, you know, I really should read a little bit more of the research on this. So I went and started to read some of the research. And do you know what the research says? Here's what the research says. To be honest. Yeah, there ain't no clear set of character traits, right? So this whole idea, the traits to become a successful leader, let's do this diagnostics to see if you have leadership capacity. In reality, it doesn't really work that way. So the leadership literature, if you go and read the leadership literature, the early approach to leadership and understanding leadership in the 70s and the 80s really was a lot about the traits, the qualities. What does it take? What do you need? Yeah. So, okay, no clear set of character traits, but leadership styles. Now, this is what matters, right? Let's talk about the correct, proper, appropriate leadership style. Yeah, this will get us somewhere. By the way, when I was looking for pictures, it was hard to find a woman when I typed in leadership. Yeah, and look at the one I found. Great, yeah. And you may know this one, the alpha wolf. Yeah. When I was presented with this one, I thought, oh yeah, I like it. I liked it. And I used it for a while, yeah? So this is how this one goes, yeah? So which one of these, so we have the alpha wolf here. This is the leader of the pack. Which one of these, oh, sorry, I've given you the answer already. Which one of these is the leader? And the answer is, it's the one at the back. Yeah, because it's the one that's monitoring and watching and making sure that the herd is all, herd? No, what do we have with wolves? That the group, can't think of my collective noun for wolf. Pack, thank you. The pack of wolves. It's the one at the back, yeah? Guess what? Yeah, no leadership style is best. And all of this about leadership and all of this about wolves, apparently, when I started to research around and do a little bit more digging into the whole wolf scenario, naturalists say, no, it's not really how it works for wolves, but it's a nice idea. Wouldn't it be nice? But actually, I don't think David Attenborough would agree with this, yeah? But the concept leadership styles, but unfortunately, no, there's no one best leadership style. There's no one, in fact, there's no one singly, commonly agreed definition of what leadership is anyway, yeah? So where does that leave us? So I've come across a really nice piece of work by Gabrielle Wong. And I came across it because she's a colleague of mine. She's a senior leader in our library, yeah? And she's written this beautiful, very short, beautiful also because it's very short paper, 4 pages, and I've given the reference here. And it's called Taking Leadership Development into Your Own Hands. And even though she's done all her research and study within libraries, and this paper is talking in the context of libraries, it really struck me how the kind of culture and the kind of challenges and the kind of workplace that she described really fit what I see as some of the challenges and features of EAP as well. So anyway, if you want to read one small paper, this is the one I would recommend if you're interested in leadership development yourself. Here's a quote by her. By nature, the qualities of effective leaders come from complex interactions of knowledge, abilities, personal traits, moral values, and more. And I'll be coming back and using a lot of her findings in the next few slides. So to me, the nature of EAP teaching is it's a natural place for nurturing leadership. Why so? Well, I mean, the easy starting point, well, teachers lead their students in their class, right? So at some level, this is something that we all do. We go in, we're responsible for a group, and we've got to take it from A to B. We've got a lot of things that we have to do that require leadership, yeah? And then you can say, yeah. And you know, I think a lot of us become teachers because we like that, right? I go into the classroom, I shut the door, and it's mine. I can do as I like, right? So it's that kind of thing. I think at some level, there's a natural affinity between the two. But I think there's more to it than that, actually, and especially in EAP. It occurs to me that the way we teach also provides an atmosphere that means that we really should be we should be naturally developing leaders. I'm not saying it's like this everywhere, but it's typical that one of the things that we're known for is teaching in small classes, yeah? And so by definition, when you've got a course that's in small classes, you've got a team, because a team is delivering the same course. And I don't know any place that doesn't have big sets of teams, that doesn't operate in this team way, that doesn't have big courses this way. A team of teachers, by definition, needs a course leader. Yeah, goes without saying, someone who's going to sort this out. And then the writing of the course itself. When you write a course, when you design a course, you can't do this thing for yourself. You've got to create something that other people can pick up and do things with, right? And deliver for you. So to me, the nature of the way we teach requires some really important skills and abilities, like collaborative skills, interpersonal skills, things that will then also figure in those lists of traits. Also, the nature of our discipline, of EAP, is that it is discipline specific in orientation, especially in the UK, and especially more recently. And the big push in a lot of places is to get in there with the academic colleagues. And this is allowing or causing or requiring many, many more people to get in and work with their colleagues. And to me, this also provides a rich area for developing some of those really important abilities that are needed in leadership. That collaboration with colleagues, that communication that's required, and then the ability to communicate one's expertise. Again, anti-Butler stance. When we go into physics and we start talking to physics about what they need in academic English, and very quickly, our physics colleague realizes they have no idea how to describe the frustration that they have with their students. We do, right? We have a lot of expertise, that's what we do. Learning how to communicate that in a way that's not off-putting and in a way that establishes our expertise and establishes our place in this collaborative exercise. It's quite a politically sensitive thing to do. And then there's the side of managing expectations. We go in and the academic faculty says, oh, yeah, can you, if you could fix their English by November, we'd be good. Yeah. How do we get across what it is what we do and how language works and how it doesn't work and how academic language intersects with the knowledge. Yeah? All of these things require us to develop some pretty sophisticated abilities that are also required in leadership and dealing in leadership positions. So I can hear you if you're with me saying, yeah, okay, fine, but I need training, I need training. This is what I hear in the corridors in my place. Oh, but I need training, you send me on a course, Again, the leadership literature tells us that actually, yeah, courses are fine. There's nothing wrong with a course. I'm not putting down courses, yeah? But the literature tells us that real development, meaningful development, genuine development comes from experience, which kind of makes sense, right? Which comes from experience in the workplace. Not necessarily from taking a course. And again, I'm not trying to say don't take a course. If you've got an opportunity, yeah, why not? Courses are a great place for that meta thinking about what's going on and to give you the language and maybe to give you a framework for understanding what's going on. But I think the point is just a course is probably not going to give you what you need. So experience in the workplace, but not all experiences are equally developmental. Yeah? So not just any experience. So here's where I want to draw on the study from my colleague, my librarian colleague, who in her EdD found that the most powerful types of experiences in this library setting, right? And this is what really caught my eye, were the ability to work on projects in the context of the workplace, the ability to participate in committees. Yeah, oh, admin. Yeah, but this is what she found as providing powerful places for developing the appropriate experience. From acting positions. In other words, not positions that you applied for, but yeah, hello, phone call in the middle of the night. Will you step up and could you just try this and help us just for this time period? Acting positions. Hardships and supportive relationships. So in her study, she tried to ask the question, what would lead to really genuine leadership. And this is what she found. I hear you again, but I need a mentor. I need someone to sort of guide me and help me. So also what I'm finding in the literature, which sort of confirms the experiences I've had, is that yeah, mentoring is great when it happens. However, most meaningful mentoring is accidental. Yeah. So mentoring as a concept, fantastic, but the reality of finding someone and being able to, for someone to really guide you to where you need to go is not a very easy thing. Yeah. And some research to support that. So back to Wong's study, she finds that it's particularly helpful when you are involved in something that challenges you. It's also helpful if you can get assessment on what you're trying to do and some kind of feedback, some kind of evaluation and feedback on what you're trying to do. It's useful in the project that you're involved in or the role that you're asked to take on, if you can also feel and genuinely have ownership of the achievement. And this one I think is really, really crucial for us. It's useful when you're involved in activities that broaden you, that broaden your exposure. And so this is where I'm thinking, okay, yeah, in the classroom, I think we're natural, I think as a teacher, you've naturally got a lot of those skills, but it's when you're asked to go outside your classroom, even outside your unit, outside your department. In her setting, she found that's what really helped people to start to grow. Notice this is research done in a library. If I knew of research done with an EAP, it would be up here on this slide, yeah? And I'd be really pleased if someone in the audience says, oh, you just don't know the literature and wants to give me some references of research of this kind of thing done in EAP. I'd be glad to hear of it. I'm not aware of any, and I couldn't find any when I looked. So some more of the reading. McCall et al. Talks about stretch assignments. I kind of like this. Unfamiliar or novel responsibilities are more developmental than on-the-job tasks that are more routine. It kind of makes sense, right? The nature of on the job. So on the job, what does that mean? Well, for this fellow, right? For us, what does that mean on the job? I think what that means is going in that classroom day in, day out, doing what you do and doing it well. So the suggestion is that leadership development comes with when you're being stretched, when you're being asked to do something that you're not familiar with, that you haven't really been prepared for 100%. Drew and Wellman talk about unfamiliar responsibilities, high levels of responsibility. They talk about being involved in creating change and how change really helps develop leadership, working across boundaries and managing diversity. And to me, what was most powerful about Wong's paper and Wong's work is that her conclusion from her research is that leadership development happens when you take leadership development into your own hands. So that's the title of that nice short 4-page paper. For her, leadership development needs to be intentional. That if you really want to develop yourself, you need to decide that this is what you're going to do. You need to be explicit in your effort to look for tasks, look for opportunities, look for roles that will stretch you. And what do we tell our students? Yeah, we tell our students, the mistake is where you fail, is where you learn, yeah? How many of us are practicing what we preach? And the literature quite richly shows that setbacks are a great place for reflection, and setbacks can lead to great growth. What kind of tasks? Tasks that rely on complex relationships, tasks that require social relationships. And as you're doing them, seek feedback, ask, and reflect. So a lot of what I'm suggesting here is that as practitioners, there's a lot we could do to put ourselves on the path to taking leadership. And the reason I'm spending time there is because of who the audience is, or who I'm assuming is here with us today. But I don't want you to feel like I'm saying, okay, it's all up to you as a practitioner. You need to sort this out for us as a field. It's not just the practitioners. EAP units also need to allow for this. EAP units need to foster leadership explicitly. I don't hear lots of discussions about leadership in our centers or in our field, which is why I was thrilled when I got that email from Louise. Wow, yay! BALIP is putting a whole day on leadership. Fantastic. Within organizational structures in our units. Units need to create roles that are leadership roles in order for people to take them on. Units need to allow for and create projects so that people can get involved. It's also important that there's an appropriate work culture. A work culture, it needs to be one that fosters self-reflection, one that allows for risk-taking. One thing that struck me in my unit when I moved from Leeds to Hong Kong UST, I didn't take on a unit that really allowed risk-taking. In fact, there are a lot of things built in that really discouraged anyone doing anything interesting or trying anything new. Bothered me. Yeah. How can you ask someone to take a risk if there isn't a safety net, if there isn't the culture and the environment around? So I'm saying this because I'm trying to address the practitioner view, but there's the reality of this, is that there is a need for a certain degree of safety, yeah, and security in a culture that allows risk-taking and allows opportunities. So how can this be done? Well, within the wider university, there should be more nomination of practitioners for membership on university committees, within university projects, so not just inside the language center, right? There should be more participation as much as possible. Look for those opportunities to sit on that committee, to get out of the unit. Beyond the university, hopefully there needs to be, our field really should commit to providing support for participation in academic and professional organizations. And you're all here, so yeah, your unit does that. Whoever sent you here, however you're here, why ever you're here, you've got that. But to be honest, I'm talking about more than that. There's a lot more out there than just, Sarah Brewer, are you here? There's more out there than just BALIP, right? So get involved in other organizations as well, right? There's lots that are related and relevant to us. Get involved. I think also, as our own field, EAP qualification, I know there aren't that many degrees, MAs, that are EAP oriented or very specifically EAP, but in the EAP qualification courses, within a course, I don't know, is there rich or any discussion about leadership or management training? I'm not saying that there isn't, but I'm not aware of it. I'm not aware of it. I don't hear about it. And it should be there. It should be there. In my own unit here, these are the kinds of things that we put in place to try to foster leadership. I think it needs to be part of formal mechanisms. We put it in our promotions criteria. We put it in our annual review exercise, and we put leadership in at different levels. Because if this is your first EAP job, the expectation is completely different than if you've been working in the field for 20 years, 25 years. We include it as part of our recruitment as something that we discuss in the recruitment round. Now, I recognize my situation is different, right? We're talking here about a unit, we're talking about a set of universities here in Hong Kong where EAP is part of the year round, and we're all on contracts that continue all year round. There's not this coming and going. It's not a summer oriented program here. We've also created a range of roles from management committees to academic leads outside and beyond that course leadership position, which I think everyone has everywhere. We've also tried to make all of our working very transparent, all agendas, all meeting notes, very, very open. And we encourage people to read. Now, do they? I don't know. Well, I do know. No, not really. Why would you want to read minutes? Why would you want? But it's the idea that, look, you're a part of this if you're in this unit. You're a part of this decision making. It's relevant to you what's happening at these committees and these decisions that are taking place. And we give workload. We have workload that is assigned to leadership project and project participation. If you then go to sit on some committee, we give you workload for it. So obviously if workload is going there, it needs to decrease the amount of hours you're spending in the classroom. So these are the kind of practical things that I think we should be doing as a discipline. Why am I saying this? I'm not trying to brag about me. I'm not trying to brag about my center. Well, actually, I'll brag about the location. Yeah, that's a picture of my university. I used to say, come and visit me. Isn't it lovely? Yeah, one day. I'm not trying to brag. But actually, what I am trying to do is I'm trying to get this out there and I'm trying to spread the word. Because where I'm coming from is that my view is that it's from positions of leadership that you can then do things. It's from positions of leadership that you can actually make a difference, that you can actually exert influence. For individuals in my center, it's incredibly satisfying if I can try to carve out spaces for people to develop and for people to do interesting things. Incredibly satisfying. And I've started giving talks like this because, well, here in Hong Kong, rather competitive place. It's part of the culture. And when I give a talk that says at my center, this is what we're doing, across the way says, over there, they're oh, how come what we don't have? Yeah. So by getting in these positions, by doing these things, you're in a position to raise the bar. You can raise the bar for your center, you can raise the bar for individuals, you can raise the bar for individuals, you can push back at the sector. And this is what brings me from the beginning to the end. Yeah. Yes, in the UK, precarity. I totally agree. I totally agree. But we're not doing ourselves favors if we ourselves are not allowing and promoting and developing leaders from amongst within ourselves who can do something about this problem. Yeah. And my charge to everyone who's in that position and who's in any EAP position is to help foster leadership. Now, of course, that doesn't mean maybe you necessarily, but part of that work culture, who can we help to support, who is making that trajectory instead of a little bit of anti-admin. Or actually, to be honest, a lot of what I hear in the precarity discussion, and I understand why, but I hear a lot of, and they, senior management. Who are they? Become they, yeah? Let's do something about it. Let's own the situation and let's fix it. Let's take it into our own hands. I think also if we do this, I think we have so much more that we have to contribute than what we're currently contributing. It occurs to me that the nature of education, right? So we work in universities mostly, yeah, who are made up of people who teach, right? Why do they teach? Because they have to. They're researchers who teach. Some of them do it very, very well. I'm not saying it that they don't. Some of them love it, but they're researchers who teach. EAP is so well placed to produce leaders who understand teaching and who can really make a difference in institutions because of their understanding and their deep understanding of teaching and their deep understanding of the diversity of student needs. Yeah. So we're so well placed to do so much more than just within EAP, just within centers. And when I read about education more generally and the changing nature of education, Tim Blackman from the Open University writes and talks about this a lot. It's clear we're no longer living in the information age, right? We're no longer living in an age where you go to school so that you can learn stuff, so that you can memorize stuff. Yeah. Instead, it's so clear that we live in an age when what students need to do is they need to be able to think, they need to be able to do, And the reason why I like Tim Blackman is he always says they need to care. Yeah. They need to be able to work with others. They need to have values. And I think that's what we do. I think that captures who we are. I think that we are absolutely core to the academic mission. And I think we're absolutely core to the mission of the future of academia. I don't think we're peripheral to the actual core, but we don't have enough strong voices to make this clear. We don't have enough of us making those connections. We don't have enough of us in those positions that are talking to the fellow senior managers around the place. So that's my conclusion. We have a lot to gain if we better recognize the role and the need. I think we have a lot to gain for ourselves and maybe many of the individuals on this call, for the profession itself. And then ultimately what that does is that feeds back into our students, which is what we're all about and which is why I love working in this sector, because people really care. I have references that I'm happy to share. And otherwise, that leaves me to thank you and ask if you have questions.
Thank you very much, Melinda. That was so interesting and inspiring. If people would like to put questions in the chat, I can pose those questions to Melinda. If anyone, give people a couple of minutes to gather their thoughts. So Melinda, just while we're waiting for some questions, in terms of your own career and your own sort of development, what do you think has been most sort of significant in sort of developing your sort of leadership style or your leadership skills, do you think?
I think maybe one reason why I really like that Wong paper, that Wong work, is it's the challenging bit. I have found myself in some situations that I was totally not prepared for, totally not, yeah. And having to just manage it because it's expected of me, and you do when you're expected of something, right? And managing that. Yeah.
Absolutely. Okay, here we have a question. Okay, from Diana. Do we need to play the uni game to the point of putting up with leadership CPD that the wider university obviously thinks a lot of, but that covers less than one of your slides in terms of sensible content? I mean, what Diana's talking about is engaging with sort of the wider university sort of leadership and management training courses that can sometimes feel perhaps less relevant.